Okay, we're in here in Adobe Bridge. Mr. Derry is going to show you how to take your first image and prep it for print. We shot in both RAW and JPEG, and today to keep things simple, we're going to go with the JPEG image. So notice right here it says type. Make sure that you select your JPEG. Now some of you only shot in JPEG, so it's going to be easy for you. Those of you who shot in both, just make sure it says JPEG file. I've got Maddie's photos up. The one I'm interested in making a print of is this one right here. So if I double click on it, Adobe Bridge is actually going to launch Photoshop, and it's going to bring the image right in for us. Now I got to resize my Photoshop so it'll fit in my recording window here, and ready to get started. Now I'm right into the cropping tool. I'm just going to get out of that for a moment, hit my escape button so I'm looking at my picture. And to zoom in and out in Photoshop, you can hold the Control minus buttons and that'll zoom you in and out. You can also go over here with a magnifying glass, and if you want to zoom this way, if you click and drag, you can zoom in and out like that. If you hold the space bar, you can kind of pan around your photograph. So resize your photograph so it fits within your window so you've got something to work with there. All right, number one, I mentioned this last class. Before we do any damage to this picture, the first thing we're going to do is go to File, go to Save a Copy, and we're not going to save it as a JPEG, but we're going to change this to a Photoshop file, and I'm going to help Maddie out here. Right in Maddie's photo folder, I'm going to make a new folder for her that says Working Prints. All right. Now, and go inside that folder, and I can give this a name, and I'll leave her last name in there. We'll call it print 1, and I'm going to call it neck because it's the part of the neck of the guitar. Give it whatever name you want. Keep your last name on there. We can call it print 1, and make sure you got it in your working prints folder. Key thing is it's a Photoshop. Oops, just a straight Photoshop file is what I'm looking for. This guy right here, right at the very top, PSD. Make sure you're saving it as a Photoshop file. That's important. Hit save, and now we're ready to get to work. We're going to work with raw images later on in the class, but for now we're just going to start here. Now we've got a copy of it, but I like to double down, so I'm going to make a second layer. And some of you may be familiar with layers, some of you are not. If your layer palette isn't open, you're going to go to Window and you're going to find Layers, and it should look something like this. Layers are really powerful. We're going to be using them all the time, all kinds of adjustment layers, masking layers, etc. But we're going to start with some basics here. So I've got my background layer. First thing I like to do is duplicate that layer, and we can call it, work layer or something like that. Hit OK. Now this layer is on top of this layer. It's important to get familiar with which layer you're working on. Just to give you an idea, if I select my background layer, but I have my work layer here, if I came over here and did something like, grab an eraser tool and start erasing, it doesn't look like I'm doing anything. But if I turn off my top layer, you can see that I've trashed that bottom layer, and I don't want to do that. I'm going to hit undo. And I also can I'm going to go up here and show you my history. Oops, where's my history? It's not, it must be hidden somewhere. Here it is. All right, I'm going to pull my history in here. So I'm going to go back in time to where I duplicated that layer. You can also use the undo command unless you've hit the save. So I'm going to go back to my work layer now. Now anything damage that I do, it's going to be on this layer. But I'm even going to go one step further, and I'm going to use adjustment layers I'll talk more about that in class, but these actually sit above the pixels, and they're acting like a filter or a set of sunglasses or something below. First place I like to start with adjustments is levels. I'm going to click on levels, and it's going to bring up this image, and this image is a histogram. And what this graph is telling us, this histogram is telling us, is that the majority of this picture is made up of pixels that are dark. They're on this side of the histogram. Normally we like to see a histogram that's kind of spread out from highlight area to dark area. And right now, if I click on this this tool and I hold my Alt button, it'll show me that none of my image, none of it is in the highlight area. If I click on this and I hold the Alt button, it'll show me that these areas right here, these part of my images, are completely black or blown out. Now, as I adjust my histogram, I normally would bring this, the highlight area, over till I just start getting some pixel information here. That's taking it too far. I'm going to bring it just to the edge. If I bring my midtones over, I can I can brighten or darken the image a little bit. I'm going to just leave that there for now. So I hit OK. And then I'm going to come in, close that out, come grab another adjustment layer. I'm going to go to levels. Oops, that's what I just did. I'm going to go to exposure rather. And I want to brighten up the whole image a little bit because this image was a little dark when it was taken. So I'm just going to, you got to be careful. You don't want to blow things out. Just going to take it up a little bit. Hit OK. Close that out. I'm going to get rid of this layer I accidentally created. All right. Thought I got rid of that. Try that again. There we go. So I've got one levels mask and an exposure mask. The other one you might want to try is hue and saturation. And again, be careful because you can go crazy with this stuff. But if you want to get a little bit more color in there, you might want to bump this up a tiny bit. If you want it cooler or warmer, you can change, what side of this you go on. I'm going to just take it a little bit to this side. All right. I don't want you to make something that looks like digital art. I just want it to be nice and clean. In terms of cleaning up the photos, we'll talk about that in another lesson. Next, we're going to crop this guy. So we're going to go, we had a lesson in this. We're going to go to our cropping tool up here. And I'm going to set it to 5:7 under my aspect ratio. And depending on whether I want it to be a vertical image or a horizontal image, up here in the upper left-hand corner, we can click back and forth. And if you want to take some of this, tighten up the image a little bit, you can do that. If you need to rotate a little bit, you could do that. This image, I'm not really going to crop all that much out. I want to keep it pretty much intact. Now you'll notice that I'm cropping some of this out because a 5:7 aspect ratio is different than the aspect ratio that the camera recorded the image in. I'm not worried about that right now. You do not want to do this because that's going to make it so your picture is less than 5:7. You're going to have a white area there. So make sure you don't have any of that showing inside your crop box. Once you're happy, you can hit the check button up here, and now we've cropped it. And then we're going to go to image size, and this is really important. When this dialog box comes up, remember I told you that although we cropped it to 5:7, Photoshop thinks this picture is 65:46 at 72. If I were to leave this checked and I type in my width of 7, I'm going to be throwing away all kinds of pixel information. My resolution is going to drop down to 72. Do not do that. Hit the undo button. I'm going to take resample off, type in 7, and now notice that I have 676 pixels per inch, which is great. I hit OK, and I can grab my tool and zoom in and out. Get out of there. So now when I go to image size, just to double check, I'm 5:7 and I'm good to print. If I were working with an image that was vertical, under image size, I would have put the 7 on the height and the 5 would have come in here. All right, so we cropped it first. So next up, we're going to get this image ready for print. Or excuse me, we're going to get ready to print. So that pretty much it sums up getting an image cropped to the right size, making some minor adjustments, and I'll show you printing next.